Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Namaste, hello everyone. Welcome again to the NPTEL course Role of Craft and Technology in Interior Architecture. So we will be discussing another module today. So we are on module 11 and it talks about creative and cultural industries, and we will try to understand its scope, definition, significance, why are we talking about these industries. The overview of the contents that we are going to cover today: creative and cultural industries, understanding definition, significance and scope. We will try to discuss through examples, and specifically we will talk about the creative city Jaipur from India, and we will talk about the European cultural industries, creative industries, and we will have a list of references towards the end. So throughout this module we have been talking about building crafts, art, architecture, interior architecture, space making. So it was very important to put together the umbrella term cultural and creative industries, and try to understand how the important sector of craft, and then connecting it to interior architecture through building crafts, how all of these fall in place when we talk about this cultural creative industries, and how it is contributing also to the economics, the world economics. So just going by this definition that is given by UNESCO. UNESCO defines cultural and creative industries as sectors of organized activity whose principal purpose is the production or reproduction, promotion, distribution and or commercialization of goods, services and activities of a cultural, artistic or heritage related nature. So it talks about not just products but services and also related activities which focus on culture, art and heritage. This approach emphasizes more than just the industrially made products of human creativity. It makes relevant the entire productive chain. So we are talking about the entire value chain, we are talking about human creativity, we are not just talking about an end product. So it also encompasses and embraces the process and the human imagination and creativity, and all the value chain means like all the stakeholders who are involved, and right from procuring material to the transportation on the site or on the location of that object of use or the art form. The entire this chain of events, the sequence and the people involved in it is called value chain. So this is what also forms an important part of these industries, as well as the specific functions of each sector involved in bringing these creations to the public. So this terminology of cultural and creative industries, it's very recent, and UK and there has been a lot of discussion in Europe, UK, and also now we are following it in India. The discussion and the discourse has started. There are already 2 cities which are identified as creative cultural cities. So we will see further what are the different perspectives, how do we define or understand the cultural and creative industries, and especially in Indian context, which all activities and the sectors could contribute to it. Going further, UNESCO takes pride, that it remains the only international organization with a global vision of the socio-cultural and economic role of crafts in society. So the major emphasis here is this economic role of crafts, because art and craft, until and unless this term cultural and creative industries came up, was seen as some activity which is related to hobby and which is related to our utility and needs, but the economic value was never attached to it. It was more like a tradition or done as part of belief system or our customs, but how it also contributes to the GDP of a nation or the economics or the trade of it was never talked about. So UNESCO actually talks about the economic role of crafts in society, and specifically I have put this slide focusing on crafts because we are talking about building crafts and interior architecture, and then it will be very exciting and interesting to know how the building crafts and interior architecture could also be seen as economic activities. So it states that crafts are an artistic expression rooted in community traditions. They pass on knowledge from one generation to the next, often through oral narratives. We have been discussing this, and thus they are part of intangible heritage. Now what is important, what they highlight at UNESCO is contemporary crafts also exist alongside creative industries. As people are open to acquiring objects of symbolic value, crafts have managed to adapt in new ways, creating innovative products that reflect the creativity and cultural heritage of their creators. So, craft is one such sector which reflects the creativity and cultural heritage of a community or a nation, plus also contributes to the economy. So it's a very crucial parameter to talk about the cultural values, about the community life, and also the GDPs of a nation. So this term is now very upcoming and uprising and being discussed everywhere, and that's why we are trying to talk about it in this module. Further taking these definitions and perspectives ahead, United Nations, they have also tried to explain the term creative industries. Now creative industries and cultural industries are used with same associations and connotations interchangeably, similarly, sometimes for the same reasons. So creative industries and cultural industries are two terms that UNESCO, United Nations and other related research bodies and organizations talk about, and I usually prefer to call them creative and cultural industries because they try to reflect on the creativity and the cultural aspect. So just seeing the United Nations perspective on this, the term creative industries is of relatively recent origin. While there are obvious connections to and continuities with cultural industries such as the performing arts and handicrafts, the designation marks a historical shift in approach to potential commercial activities that until recently were regarded purely or predominantly in non-economic terms. So that's what we were discussing while we were on the previous slide, that performing arts, handicrafts, they were always looked upon as non-economic terms, activities in non-economic terms. But now we are trying to see them as commercial activities which can actually contribute to the economics. It can bring in money, it can bring in jobs, it can bring confidence and sustainable living for a lot of artisans and the people who are working in this sector. So it's a very important historical shift that everybody is talking about, and India is embracing it, and we are also adopting the creative industries and cultural industries. And we have a very rich tradition of arts and crafts and indigenous architecture styles. So we are also trying to now embrace them, value them, and represent India globally in terms of these industries which have been an age-old part of our customs and our existence. This is a very important graphic here if you look at the slide, and here what they are talking about is the economic value of the arts, or the umbrella term, the cultural industries, the creative industries, and specifically they are talking about the art sector in US, and this is from one of the reports, and we see this data analysis over here. So top art and cultural industries here in US are broadcasting, motion pictures and video, publishing, arts, culture, retail. So we see this here placed as an important industry. performing arts and independent artists and advertising. So what is important over here is, like, if we see here, 4% of the GDP is what arts contribute to the US economy, and it is phenomenal, and it is a very welcome step to recognize this contribution and to take it forward. If we go ahead, so there are 4.7 million number of workers in the art and cultural sector, which again is a huge number, and there are capital investments related to art and culture, and there are a lot of people working over here, and then working, and these investments, they eventually result in the profits and GDP. Then there is also contribution to GDP from copyright intensive industries, which are also part of cultural industries, and here we see the publishing part as one of the important activities. So here what they are trying to say is that the arts help the creative economy to grow, and US is very welcoming to recognize this sector as one of the major sectors that contribute to the economy and GDP, also happiness and wellness, because these are the activities which are done by a lot of artisans, artists, craft persons, as also part of what they have been brought up with and also what they enjoy doing. So it's a very welcoming scenario, and such kind of graphics help us analyze and substantiate the kind of researches that are happening. So taking this forward, the Secretary of Commerce Penny Pritzker tried to describe and analyze and explain the graphic that we saw in the last slide, and then that with the creation of new data analysis like this one, the one on the previous slide, which shows how arts and culture contribute to GDP, the Department of Commerce is providing a more detailed picture of what drives the US economy, growth and job creation. So job creation is very important here. And what is driving a significant portion of our economy today is the production of creative and cultural content. So this is highly crucial. I will repeat this. What Penny Pritzker is saying is, what is driving a significant portion of US economy today is the production of creative and cultural content. Members of the creative community have long made the case that these industries are a vital part of a nation's economic well-being, and this announcement further proves that fact. So this is substantiating that the kind of research which is happening in the creative cultural industries and the creative activities, the art sector, the craft sector, and how people are trying to link it to the commercialized outcomes and economy, is what is being substantiated and proven by data analytics like what we saw, and the kind of statements that we are seeing which are being made. Going further now, since we have a hang of what are creative industries and what are cultural industries, let us also try to understand what is Creative Cities Network. Now UNESCO Creative Cities Network, which is called UCCCN, was created in 2004 to promote cooperation with and among cities that have identified creativity as a strategic factor for sustainable urban development. Now we are talking about cultural industries and creative industries. So there are certain cities, in different countries which predominantly have certain creative and cultural activities, and which could be treated as strategic factors for sustainable urban development. So we will see how in India Jaipur has been designated as one of the creative cities, and what are the factors that make it get that recognition, and what are the different kinds of creative and cultural industries that are within its purview and activities. So the 116 cities which are currently making up this network, they work together towards a common objective. So there is a networking within these cities also. So they have a common objective placing creativity and cultural industries at the heart of their development plans at the local level and cooperating actively at the international level. So this network is very active, and UNESCO is trying to link all the cities across the globe which could contribute in sustainable urban development, keeping the focus on creative and cultural industries, and they work towards this common objective, and they work hand in hand, you know, at their own regional levels, state levels, national levels, and then eventually internationally they are linked together to work towards this common objective. So like I was telling, from India, we have two cities, Jaipur and Varanasi, which are a part of this network, and they were announced in 2015. So Jaipur is known as a creative city, and majorly because of its craft and folk art, and Varanasi for its music, and that's how they have got this recognition and designation by UNESCO. Now, understanding further what the Creative Cities Network can do and why it is so important, and why are we talking about it when we are talking about cultural and creative industries. So there are certain major, you know, promising objectives and the aims that the Creative Cities Network tries to fulfill. Integrate creativity into a mainstream planning approach. Provide an international platform for promoting crafts and folk art. And when we talk about promotion of craft and folk art, we will also talk about interior architecture, because throughout this course we are trying to link building crafts and interior architecture. So we will see further in one of the slides, while we will discuss the creative industries of Europe and also see the Jaipur creative city, we will see also one category which is architecture and building crafts. Encourage cultural tourism. Enable capacity building opportunities. Opportunities for exchange programs and events to promote crafts locally as well as internationally. Boost local economy through advertising and sale of products internationally. So it is talking about local economy as well as international exchanges and economic forces that contribute to the finances and the trade. So this network is very visionary, and from local level to global level it contributes in varied ways. Also, how a city can contribute to this network. So when we talk about India, represent India in the network and represent it globally. Offer a wide array of unique crafts as knowledge base, and we have been talking about this. Creating a knowledge base, creating a resource hub, documenting these art, craft, interior architecture forms, and represent India globally, that it has such rich traditions and such knowledge base and so many skill sets which, you know, the world would be interested to know and adopt. Offer a platform for sale and promotion for other cities, opportunity for exchange programs and events. Contribute to fostering productive international relationships, working together for the common goal of sustainable development. So it's very important that we understand how this network contributes to the city and city contributes to the larger network. Now, whenever we are talking about Jaipur as a creative city and also UCCN, I have largely adopted this data and framework from Drona, which is based in Gurgaon, and they have been working, you know, substantially and phenomenally in the sector of creative and cultural industries. So that's what I have taken as a base reference, and we can all study in depth later as per our interest. I'll also give a list of references. Now, discussing this network further, the network encourages cultural exchange in specific category like crafts and folk arts, design, gastronomy, which is related to food, films, design, literature, media arts, music, etc., and provides international opportunities for cities' economic growth in the specific sector of creative industries. So everywhere we are talking about cities' economic growth and how it is linked to its creative and cultural industries, which have been innately a very important part of people's existence and way of life. And what more, you know, in terms of results, when you perform your cultural activity which is close to your roots and also get economic returns. So that is what is the focus about, focus of this network and all the cultural and creative industries. We'll discuss a little bit about Jaipur, and Jaipur has been designated as a creative city, and we'll see what all are different sectors or categories, like we saw in the previous slide over here, specific categories within the creative industries. So we'll see what are the different categories and what are the different activities, cultural activities which could be treated as creative and cultural industries, and how Jaipur has got this designation. So Jaipur has been always seen as city of crafts and folk art, and it's like internationally known for that, and several tourists come over, and people in India and students also go learn, document these forms. So it has very rich forms and numerous. So frescoes and painting, these are like one. Puppet making has been done in Rajasthan, especially Jaipur, since a very long time. Then it has terracotta crafts, it has very famous blue pottery, which is also, it has been exported to several places, and people know Jaipur for its blue pottery. So it is seen as city of crafts and folk art. Then we see Jaipur as a city of living heritage. So we see different kinds of havelis, they have a very different, unique built form, and they have these traditional courtyards which have proven very important features, passive design features. So courtyards, the havelis of Rajasthan and their courtyards, they are read and studied by varied scholars throughout the globe, and everybody tries to understand that how this city is still a living heritage, and we try to learn so much from the past. Then different kinds of other works like glass work and crystal work, and how all of it is seen in the houses and the shops, even the day-to-day places of existence. Jaipur as a city of design, urban form. So if we see Jaipur as a city of design, there is so much to see and learn, the different kinds of architectural forms, urban forms, the morphology. So that is there, and it has been recognized and studied a lot. Then we also see Jaipur as a city of design, and especially we are talking about architecture. So the very famous Hawa Mahal and other forts and palaces. So that have been a part of Jaipur architecture and built forms since a very long time, and all these forts and palaces are still intact, and a lot of people and tourists, they go there, study there, experience these spaces. So Jaipur has a very unique character, and it's a very distinct identity, and it is timeless. So every time you go and look at these forts and palaces, there is something which is common that you go there and experience every time, but then there is some peculiar experience that one, if they go there again and again, they will experience it in a new way. So it's a very crucial part of its existence. Then Jaipur as a city of gastronomy, so we see different kinds of foods which make this city very unique. It has its own identity in terms of what people eat, and especially the Rajasthani thali and the street food, and it's known, people go and also explore the food items, and then they relish them, and it's very unique in taste. Jaipur is also seen as a city of performing arts. So there are different kinds of performing arts. We also see Ram Leela and other forms, the performances that happen over here, street plays, folk dances. So all of it, through Jaipur we are trying to understand, India is so rich, it has a unique, every city has a unique identity, a character, a different urban form, the different kinds of buildings and interior architecture practices, different kinds of food, and all of this can actually, it can actually contribute in the cultural identity of that city, and also how these industries become a part of mainstream commercialization, generate employment, and put India on a global map and also contribute to the economy. If we see different kinds of art craft forms here which are listed by Drona, we see in Jaipur jewelry, different kinds of jewelry which are like very famous. The Meenakari work is very famous, Kundan work is very famous. And we were talking about the blue pottery a while ago. It's been very famous art and craft form. Textiles, Jaipur has very rich textiles. So embroidery, there is Mukaish work, there is tie-dye, and tie-dye work is like, you know, it's very famous, and it's been being exported to different parts of the world, and it's also very aesthetic and feel good factor when, you know, when we wear something that is made by our own hands, by the artisans in the craft communities in our own cities. There is block printing, which is phenomenal, and block printing techniques we see on fabric, paper and whatnot. There is weaving, which is also very phenomenal form, the technique over here. We see the building crafts also, we see stone crafts. So we see different kinds of sculptures, we see carving, inlay. Also we see the metal and woodwork. So there is Thatera craft, there is metal inlay Tarkashi craft. So all these, you know, this is a gamut of different cultural and creative industries in Jaipur. Then like we were talking about building crafts, so there are architectural stone crafts that we saw in the previous slide. Then there are lime crafts, we see a lot of frescoes, and there is mirror work locally which is known as Thikri Kam in Rajasthan. Also we have been talking about the structural craft and the surface craft. So when we talk about surface, paintings play a major role. There are miniature paintings which are very famous from Jaipur. There have been schools of art in Rajasthan which, you know, teach miniature paintings. There is Mandana painting, and then there are frescoes. So they are very peculiar to Rajasthan and like specifically Jaipur also. Then we see paper crafts. So there are hand bound books, the Bahi Khatas and the books, handmade paper, papier mâché, kite flying, and then there are several other miscellaneous craft forms. There is Katputli, Mojri, the leather footwear, there is Koftkari, there is terracotta work. So this is like a very exhaustive list, and Drona has been working phenomenally documenting all these art craft forms, making the directory of different artisans and craft persons who have been working on them, bringing them into the mainstream commercial projects, also contributing the enlisting of Jaipur as a creative city in UNESCO. So there has been a lot of work that several people have been doing, and it's on their pioneering efforts all this is happening, and people like you and me can take it forward. So here are some pictures and examples of building crafts. So we see here stone crafts, structural, joinery, brackets, space making elements like arches and columns. We see these stone jalis, but this is like in lime. We see that in stone also. So there are lime crafts. Lime, many of us would know that why lime was used, you know, in earlier buildings, and it had so much advantage. And today, because of advanced technology and also because of lack of time, most of us have shifted to cement concrete, but lime has been a very magical material, whether we use lime plaster or lime mixed with cement and in different forms, and it has varied advantages, and maybe in some module we can discuss, but this is not the focus for this module. Then we see frescoes over here and mirror work. So the Amer Fort and different, you know, palaces, we'll see the mirror work also, like on ceilings and walls everywhere. And this was also very painstakingly done earlier with plaster of Paris and in lime plaster. But today we have the, you know, reinterpretation and contemporary ways of doing this, which could save time and which has different expressions. So there are these traditional forms which have continuity, and they have gone to another level in contemporary times in way of interpretation and expression. So that's another thing. But we see this entire umbrella of building crafts in Jaipur, and it's quite intricate, detailed out, and still we see a lot of examples existing in their very original forms. Paintings we were talking a while ago, so there is miniature painting, frescoes and mandana, and these paintings, the surface crafts, they are very much storytelling. They have narratives embedded within them, and like we were seeing few examples from Uttarakhand, they have different motives and meanings which are a part of everyday life and memory associations of people and community. So again, studying about these paintings, the surface narratives also takes us back to that particular era and contributes to the history, society, and understanding of what went in the society at that particular time. Now just to give an overview, and then we'll talk about the European industries particularly, but if we talk about the Finnish creative and cultural industries in particular, then we see majorly textiles that contribute in the economy. Then there is resin craft, creative designs, there is glass craft, and then woodworking. And they have their business models and services through which they are trying to link these creative and cultural industries and generate economy. So craft industry has been a very important source for creating jobs as far as Finland is considered, and it contributes to wider economy, tourism, food, design, cultural experiences. So we see this kind of cultural and creative industries umbrella throughout Europe. Another example that I have put is Japanese creative and cultural industries. So Japan has its own creative and cultural industries in different categories. So very famous, we know origami, then Japanese architecture, it has its own unique interior architecture styles, then calligraphy, and then there are paintings also. We keep talking about the surface craft, so they have very famous paintings. Now specifically talking about Europe, as the not going into the details of the cities, but Europe as a whole. So again, European cultural and creative industries, they give a very unique cultural identity to Europe, and it is known for its textiles, metalworking, ceramics, glass, woodworking. These industries are a very important part of Europe's creative economy, and they emphasize on entrepreneurship, job creation, sustainable employment in cities, towns, villages, as well as remote rural areas. So that has been a major focus of Europe, that rather than bringing villages to the city, how the villages and remote areas can be sustainably developed, and their creative and cultural industries could be promoted, and they could generate employment for the people and the communities. And they have a very specialized education system which also emphasizes a lot on vocational skills, craft education, art education, and that is what should also be a part of Indian education system, which is already happening at different levels in different capacities, and it could be taken further by combined efforts of all of us. Now there are some slides which I will browse through, and it will give us some statistical data that establishes further the importance of creative and cultural industries, and specifically in context of Europe I am talking here. If we see this slide and we see over here the cultural and creative industries, and we see this huge number. So this is more than 7 million Europeans are directly employed by these creative and cultural industries, which is huge, which is above other 5 categories, and it comes here in in the top 3, and that's a phenomenal number. This is another set of data which tries to tell what are the different cultural and creative sectors in Europe. So this is the overview, and just to zoom in and give more details, here if we see architecture, because we are talking about building crafts and architecture and arts. So if we see the data related to architecture, most of the 493,000, you can read the number, registered architects in Europe are in SMEs or self-employed. So it's a huge number, and here architecture is one of the major cultural or creative sectors. Then we see music, we see performing arts. 5 of the 10 most attended international festivals take place in Europe, and Europe is known for its international festivals, exhibitions, museums. So this data, just reinforces this reinforces the facts and the knowledge that we have about Europe and its creative economy. Here again we see visual arts. 7 of the world's 10 most visited art museums are in Europe. So it is known for its creative economy, creative and cultural industries, and this is one successful model that can be looked upon and taken inspiration from, and we can try to replicate it in India because we have our own unique art, craft, interior architecture, music, performing art forms. So we are very rich in that, and it's just about taking cognizance of the fact that they could also contribute commercially and also generate sustainable livelihoods for certain communities, which have not been brought into the mainstream. It is already happening, it's a welcome step, and we can contribute further. This is just an interesting graphic since we are talking about gastronomy. So yes, food definitely forms a part of creative industries because there are different kinds of food items, raw materials which are very peculiar to certain cities and certain climate zones. If I talk about India itself, so like in Almora we have this local cuisine, madue ki roti, and then there is bhat ki dal, and all that you cannot probably get in plains and other cities. So there is a distinct identity, whether it's about the costumes or jewelry or food or the kind of art craft forms which are practiced or the kind of interior architecture which people inhabit in. All of these are very unique to a particular cultural landscape and particular community. So it's very exciting and interesting to keep us open to learn and understand and embrace all these forms and try to bring them into the mainstream, document them and represent India globally with such rich forms. Subsectors of cultural and creative industries, if we see in Europe, there are like books, newspapers and magazines, music, performing arts. We see TV over here, films, radio, video games, visual arts. So we see again architecture, visual arts, where they have put art and craft, and we see performing arts. So we see art, craft, architecture. Whenever we talk about the categories or subsectors of creative and cultural industries, whether it's Japan, Europe, India, at least the 3 cases that we saw today, we see all these 3 very specifically placed in these categories and subsectors. And that's the intention of this module. So we are trying to talk about the building crafts and interior architecture and how this larger umbrella of creative and cultural industries encompasses them, and how their interrelationships could be very useful in contributing to space making as well as the economy. Some other data set which I'll just go through. We see the turnover here in Europe, and in visual arts we see the highest number. So that again is a very good sign. Employment. Now in terms of employment, performing arts, visual art and music, we see here in Europe they are very high and upbeat, but this is where India has to really catch up, because we are not able to provide sustainable employment and living methods to all our artisans and craft persons and the people who are associated to creative and cultural industries, and that's why they are shifting from their original professions and skill sets to other sectors which could give them employment, and that's the gap that we need to address too. Some other data over here, again the creative and cultural markets in Europe, and we see architecture and visual arts over here, and the related sales and jobs which are like a huge number. Benchmarking the cultural and creative industries, here we see again food and beverage industry, lot of other cultural and creative industries, and the employment which is created in them, it's a huge number here. Untapped potential for youth employment, this we saw a while ago. So because a lot of youth are interested in music, performing arts, visual arts, architecture, design, so this could be a potential sector to tap for employment, especially when we talk about youth. Total government expenditure on cultural services. Now this is also a very big number. So then here what we should try to understand is that our government, when we talk about India, the government should also, and it's already doing, but it should also try to, when the budget allocation happens and our 5-year plans happen, the government also needs to allocate certain budget to our cultural services and to recognize the importance of them in our 5-year plans and other policies, and which is already happening. We just need to upscale it. So we had a very interesting discussion on creative and cultural industries, and as usual I would like to sum up with few interesting quotes. The creative industries have been seen to become increasingly important to economic well-being, proponents suggesting that human creativity is the ultimate economic resource. So this is what we have been discussing in this module. And the industries of the 21st century will depend increasingly on the generation of knowledge through creativity and innovation. This is interesting. So every time we talk about the craft, building craft and interior architecture, and then we talk about tradition and continuity. So we also need to find out and understand the need of innovation which is embedded in this tradition, and it is taken forward. Another interesting one from the very famous Creative City. Cities have one crucial resource, their people. Their cleverness, desires, motivation, imagination and creativity are replacing location, natural resources and market access as urban resources. The creativity of those who live in and run the city will determine future success. This is what sums up this module. Our next module will focus on building crafts, definitions, perspectives and frameworks. And I will run through references. These references are particularly focusing on what we discussed today, the cultural and creative industries. And later we have the summed up references of previous modules as well, but these are particular to the discussion we had today. So creative industries, creating growth, measuring cultural and creative markets, creative economy, creative city. These are the other ones. Thank you.